Okay, good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us for the sixth, oh, is this the fifth or the sixth session? I don't know, of our Let's Grow Quinte webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking about telling your business's story through content. Most of you are returning from some of our previous webinars, so you kind of know the spiel. But I'll just introduce Cheyanne for us. So for anyone that's new, so thank you for being with us, Cheyanne. Cheyanne O'Driscoll is the founder of CO Marketing in Quinte West. You may know her from the countless workshops and webinars she's done with for us over the years. Cheyanne's approach to marketing is specific and grounded. It's about recognizing the distinct characteristics of local businesses and giving them the tools and strategies to connect with their communities effectively. Today, CO Marketing offers a range of services designed with local businesses in mind, from entrepreneurs in Kingston to established business owners in Quinte. Cheyenne's focus remains consistent, helping businesses connect, grow, and thrive in their local markets. So, with that, I will give it over to Cheyenne. And thanks again, everyone, for being here today.
Thanks, Amy. It's always hard to sit and listen to someone talk about you. It's like the worst thing ever. Okay, I'm going to start by spotlighting myself and then we're going to get right into it. Appreciate your time. It's a nice small group today. So if you have any questions, don't be shy to pipe in at the end. We should have lots of time to chat it out. So I love a good stat. This is from a report last year, last February. And what we are seeing right now is that 82% of Canadians say they prioritize supporting micro and small businesses in their communities. This is incredible to see as someone who's been involved with the local shopping scene since the early 2000s. I started with food down the road and local food. This growing momentum is something we want to 100% optimize and lean into. Consumer spending is almost ours to lose right now. We are the preferred choice, but we need to meet them with our marketing, which is what we're going to talk a lot about today. When we put on our CMO hat, our Chief Marketing Officer hat, and we look at our business through a marketing lens, we want to be mindful that large companies are going to compete through their advantage. It's about advertising budgets, brand recognition, and scale. If we're trying to optimize our marketing to compete with that, we're not leaning into our own advantages. We really compete through familiarity, relationships, and trust. This has always been our advantage. And right now, because of the way the consumer market sentiment is shifting, trust is absolutely crucial. And it's one of our strongest pieces that we actually have to lean into. So today we're talking about business stories. And the reason because that is that stories help customers understand and trust your business. It's one of the easiest ways to lean into this market advantage that we have. Consumers want to support small businesses. It's a great time for us in this sense. There's a lot of other challenges we're all dealing with in a broader sense. But because consumer sentiment is so anchored in a small and local right now, there's a huge advantage for us. But that preference alone does not automatically create a sale. We have to meet the preference with the right type of content that's going to help them move forward from preference to conversion. Customers still need to recognize and trust our business. And that's what we want to do with our marketing. We want to be mindful of this concept. It's the consumer attention problem. Consumers are exposed to thousands of marketing messages every day. We are inundated. And because of that, we've designed a really thick filtration mechanism. Usually, most marketing messages we're quickly ignoring. So when someone encounters something about your business, we have to get through that filtration process. Their brain is going to ask very specific questions. What is this? Do I trust it? And is it worth my time? Our marketing and our content isn't worth anything on our side if we're not able to go through these questions for our potential clients and customers. Sharing your business stories is one of the best ways to grab attention, create trust, and support your sales. Quick intro. I know a few of you are longtime friends and clients. I'm excited to see your faces. A few of you have been attending our workshops before. Anyone who doesn't know me, like Amy said, I support small local businesses and micro businesses, hugely passionate about it. Been working as a marketing consultant for 7 or 8 years. So I'm going to quickly go past that. I'm going to drop in the chat my contact information now because I know if I leave it to the end, it can be difficult. So my email is there. Send me an email if you have any questions. You can also hop on a 30-minute call with me, complimentary, if there's anything you want to chat out. And I also have a survey I'm currently sending out. I'm gathering data around the marketing reality for small and micro businesses. It helps make sure the work I do is really high value. So if you have 5 minutes to fill that out, I would really greatly appreciate it. And feel free to share with any business owners that you know. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about how customers and clients decide. I really believe in empowering business owners to understand some of the principles of marketing so that we can make our choices from an educated, knowledgeable place. So we're going to concentrate on that initially. I'm going to nerd out a little bit and talk to you about some consumer psychology concepts so you can understand how and why stories are so effective and efficient for us. And then I'm going to give you a really tangible piece, the 5 types of business stories. You don't have to worry about scrambling to write it all down right now or remember it. There will be a guide that I can drop it in the chat, and Amy's also going to send it out with the replay. So it will pull you through the process of creating your 5 types of business stories that I'm going to talk about here today. So, how customers and clients decide. When people discover a business, psychologically, they're going to move through 3 key stages. These are absolutely crucial. Anyone who's worked with me before, I talk a lot about this. I gave a core content bundle in our last workshop that helps people create this. Stories are also another way to satisfy this psychological need. So the 3 pieces that they're going to need to move through are going to be know, like, and trust. If you've been doing any work with marketing, you've probably heard those terms thrown around. Very simply, know is they understand what the business is and what it sells. It's incredible how often we know what we do and what we sell, but we actually don't clearly communicate that in our marketing. Like means they feel some kind of connection and resonance with our brand and with our offerings. And trust, they believe that the business will deliver. Trust is becoming absolutely crucial because there is so much marketing and so much consumption happening. People are really, really low tolerance for risk right now. So trust is really, really important. What marketing actually is and what it actually does, it's not just about promotion. This is one of my sandboxes I can get up on a bit. We tend to think of marketing as advertising and promotion, but what marketing really is, it's a way to create, establish, and nurture a relationship between our business and our target market. It helps customers recognize the business, understand the business, and build confidence in the business. And all of that is what helps support people moving into a sales process with you. It meets those psychological needs that they have before they can risk a transaction. Stories and our business stories plays a really important role in this process. I'm going to talk about 3 quick concepts in consumer psychology, and then we're going to talk about how it ties into stories. So the first concept is the mirror exposure effect. Repeated exposure increases familiarity, and familiarity increases preference. This is one of the reasons we tend to lean so much on social media, as frustrating as it can be, and as much as we have more of a hate than love relationship with it. It's a very accessible way to create exposure with our audience and to create that familiarity. When people encounter something repeatedly, it begins to feel safer and more trustworthy to them. When customers recognize your business, it feels more established, more trustworthy, and less risky. Repeated storytelling helps your business become familiar. Our second concept in consumer psychology is mental availability. In marketing terms, this is also called mind share. Before we get market share, we have to establish mind share. In the definition of mental availability is the likelihood that a business comes to mind in a buying situation. Most of the time, people are not going to go to Google and look for who they want to purchase from right now. They will already have options in their minds that they've remembered, and that will be the option they go with. What we want to do is make ourselves top of mind. We want to make sure we have that spot in the mental availability. So customers are more likely to buy from businesses that come to mind easily when the need arises. When someone thinks, I need a gift, I need a plumber, I want to try a new cafe, it's not, there's a percentage that will go and seek it out in that moment, but the vast majority of consumers are going to already have somebody that's top of mind. So they usually choose from the businesses that they remember first. Stories help your business become easier to remember and recall. And our third one is perceived risk. This is hyper important right now. I just did a consumer market report for the Bay of Quinte. One of the biggest things we're seeing is how risk adverse people are. And so it's, again, it's one of our market advantages is that we have the opportunity to reduce that risk through storytelling and connection. So the perceived risk is the uncertainty a customer feels about whether a purchase will meet their expectations. People are holding very tight to their wallets right now for very good reason. When a customer considers buying from a business, they evaluate the level of risk that is involved. Before customers buy, they often ask, will this be good quality and will this person deliver what they promise? Stories that show your experience, your process, and your customer results help reduce that uncertainty, and it makes the business feel safer to choose from. When we put these all together and we consider our natural market advantage as small, local, micro businesses, we want to lean into the power of story. Stories structure information in a way that makes it easier for people to understand and remember. This is just a truth of how we work psychologically. We retain and remember stories much easier than random data and facts. When customers encounter a business, they're going to remember stories much easier than they will facts. So if we try to approach our marketing where we're just listing, here's the different types of things I do, it's not going to have the same power of retention than if we bundle things up into a story. So stories, they're going to help our clients and our customers remember our business, understand what makes it different, and connect with the person or people behind it. This is going to strengthen your preference and your trust. And it really optimizes the market advantage that we have, which with our marketing, I know we don't have a ton of budget to put into it or time or energy. So we really want to optimize our marketing. And this is one of the key ways we do it. So I'm going to go into the different types of stories, and I'm going to give you examples of each so that you can see how you can start applying this to your business. So the 5 types of stories that every business should have and should share are your origin story, your process story, your customer experience story, your values story, and your expertise story. What I love about this is I know from working with so many small business owners and solopreneurs, one of our biggest challenges with our marketing is being able to be consistent, being able to not get on social media for a month and then it drops off. It's very challenging because we're wearing so many hats, and when we don't have a structure, it makes it even more challenging to follow. So one of the ways that I support us in being able to be consistent is by creating what's called evergreen content. Tina is one of my people. I've worked with her for forever. This is something she's focused on right now. Evergreen content is a style of content that you can post over and over again. It doesn't age out. It's not hyper relevant to one time a year or to one holiday. And because they're based on things that are foundational to your business, you can always pull them forward and share with your audience. The other piece is that your audience, unless you're posting them like every single month, it's definitely not something you want to use every month, but your audience is going to hopefully be growing, and only a small portion of your audience sees content at any given time. So you can actually reuse this a couple of times a year. What usually happens with my clients is we map out their cycles of their year. And there's times of the year where you're just so busy with delivery or life is lifing that you don't have time to create a month of content. So what you do is you go and pull your evergreen content. You have it saved in a file or a folder somewhere on your Google Drive or on your computer. You can pull out your business stories. You can also pull out your core content bundle that I shared last month. And that's enough to then schedule out your whole month. It'll take 10, 15 minutes to schedule it. It's copy and paste. You have it pre-made, and that saves you from being inconsistent with your social media marketing. That's important for 2 reasons. your audience. If you're showing up consistently, you're nurturing that relationship that you're building with them, and you're keeping yourself top of mind. So you don't want to lose that. You want to have that happening consistently. And social media is one of the most accessible ways for us to do it. And the other element of it is the algorithm. The algorithm does not like if we're posting and then it goes dead. It tends to penalize us for it. But if we are consistent with our posting, then we don't get that punishment. We don't get that repercussion. So what I'm going to suggest is that you create these stories first off. They're really not that hard. And if you have a chat GPT or an AI that you've been working with, it probably knows quite a bit already about your business, and you can drop the guide into it and it can walk you through creating it. So create that and have it parked somewhere that you can get at it anytime you need so you can maintain this consistency. So here are our 5 types of business stories. The origin story. This leans into our market advantage because one of the things that is almost universally true for us small micro businesses is that our business comes from some kind of place of passion. Very little of us go into small business being like, this is going to be quick, easy ROI. It's just not the reality of it. So we want to share that with the consumers. This is one of the pieces that they're looking for. They want to know the why behind your business. It's what resonates for them. So your origin story is essentially sharing, why did you start this business? Pieces that you can include in an origin story is what inspired you to start, what problem you wanted to solve, and the moment you decided to begin. Going to give us a quick example so we can see this really tangibly. So an origin story would be, I started this business after years of baking for family gatherings and realizing how much people loved having something homemade to share. What began as weekend baking quickly grew into small bakery focused on traditional recipes and quality ingredients. Do you see how that resonates so much more than I make cinnamon buns and sourdough bread? That bundling it up as a story, it creates a sense of connection, and you see the reason behind it, the why. Simon Sinek says people don't buy what we do, they buy why we do it. And it's one of our market advantages as small and local businesses. Your process story. This is another, all of these are based on our market advantages. This is what I love about marketing for small micro businesses is that it makes my work easy. Operationally, we have a lot of challenges, but the content and the quality behind our businesses, we have a lot of advantages. So customers trust businesses more when they can see the work behind what you offer. Another pretty universal truth in small micro businesses is that we deeply, deeply care about what we're doing. We're really focused on making sure what we're producing, what we're creating, what we're stocking on our shelves is high quality. So we cannot assume people will know that. And as much as we can tell them, it's much stronger when we share it in a story. So examples of pieces that you can incorporate into your process story are how something is made, how you prepare for clients, and the steps in your process. An example for a process story, it's loosely based on myself. Before every client session, I spend time reviewing their business goals and preparing examples that will be most useful for them. That preparation helps make sure a time together is focused and productive. You can see the intentionality and the consideration behind this process. It's really designed to optimize the result for the client. If I use those words, designed to optimize the result for the client, we would just completely blank out. But when it's shared in this kind of way, it's much easier to absorb and to connect to. Customer experience stories, another beautiful advantage our businesses have. One of the things I love about small and micro and local businesses is that we're really embedded in our communities or our industries. There's no such thing as going in and like tricking people to buy from us and then disappearing. We go to the same schools, we shop at the same stores, we're networking in the same circles. So we're really mindful of making sure the experience of working with us and that word of mouth and the referrals are going to really work. So sharing your customer experiences help people see how your work helps others. Examples we can include in this, these are some very stereotypical social proof. You've probably heard of this concept. Testimonials, before and after experiences, and customer stories and highlights. This is a really easy but very important one. This one's easy to keep ongoing. As you work with more people, you'll start to recognize stories you can share. So, an example of a customer experience story: a customer recently came in looking for a last minute anniversary gift. After talking through a few options, they chose a handmade necklace that reminded them of where they first met. Seeing that kind of reaction is one of the best parts of this work. So they're talking about talking through a few options, right? You're seeing within the story that it's a hands on guided customer experience. But rather than telling people that and using those words, it's shown within the story. And values. This one is, this almost feels like a cheat code when I market businesses, because one of the realities are that if we are a small or micro business, most likely we're also people who shop at small and micro businesses, whether that's B2C or B2B. So we usually have a very large shared set of values. So if we can communicate that and share that in our marketing, it makes it really, really easy to connect with people who are also looking to support micro and small. So customers often feel more connected to businesses that reflect their values. This is one of the foundations of marketing, is that our choices are very value based. So examples that you can share in your value story is supporting local businesses, craftsmanship and quality, community involvement, and sustainability or ethical practices. I know almost everybody I work with, they hit, if not all of these, the majority of these pieces. And this type of stuff, when you put it out there in your marketing, it allows those consumers, those 84, 86% that are looking to shop small and local, it resonates with them. It helps them see, oh, this is a kind of business that shares the same kind of values I share. So we want to put that out there in our stories. Example, supporting local makers has always been important to me, so I make a point of sourcing many of the materials for my products from small Canadian suppliers whenever possible. This is quite often one of those pieces that I find out is going on behind the scenes when I move into work with a business, and they're not putting it front and forward because they don't want to brag, or they don't really see just how powerfully it can impact their audience. It's one of those stories we definitely want to be sharing, because this is the same buying decision that our clients and our customers are making. So if we show them this is the way that I purchase as well, it really makes our business such a great fit for what they're looking to invest in. And our last one is expertise stories. Customers want to know they're working with someone who understands their craft. This is very closely related to the process. What's happened recently, not recently, over the years, is that there's so many, especially online businesses. There's a lot of businesses that are more focused on the generating revenue really quickly than really investing and having the expertise behind what they're offering. And most of the time, small micro businesses, we do the inverse. We quite often overinvest in our expertise. We're really, really focused on making sure we understand what we're doing. I even know businesses that are retail businesses, and they're so focused on making sure they do that well. It's absolutely incredible that it is a craft to them. So we want to share that in our stories with our clients and our customers. So examples of how we can roll this in is sharing advice and tips, explaining how something works, and helping customers make informed decisions. I do a lot of this myself as a marketing consultant. There's a lot of people out there talking about marketing without having the expertise behind them. So it's something I have to really be mindful around. So an example around this, one question clients often ask is how to decide where to focus their marketing efforts. A big part of my work is helping business owners understand their options so they can choose an approach that fits their goals and resources. Sharing that on social is much stronger than me just saying, I do this. It's much more important that we bring it to people in a way that it's going to resonate on a more emotional level than just the data and the facts. So those are our 5 types of business stories. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how to structure it into a story. It can be, if you're not a story writer naturally, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. It's not about writing a Shakespeare level sonnet. It's just about making sure the structure of it brings it into a story. You do use any AI, it can certainly help you with this. I'm going to give a quick guide for it. Don't overthink this part. If you're hitting the right tones and you're sharing a piece, you'll most likely end up in a story regardless. But Invest in these. They are not just super, super convenient in that operationally, they give us leeway when we're not able to produce content. These are actually going to resonate incredibly strong with your audience. I have clients who have been in business for 20 years and they have an established social media audience. When they put out one of these stories, the impact, the reach, the comments is always substantially larger than the regular kind of posts. We need both, but the stories really resonate with our audience because they hit so many of the right marks for us. So, how to turn them into stories. Instead of just stating information, you want to tell a short moment or example that shows it. There's a rule in marketing, show, don't tell. Much stronger anytime we can show any of the pieces that we want our audience to receive rather than just trying to point blank tell them. And that's the entire point behind using stories. So a simple structure we can follow. First thing we do is the moment. Start with a real situation or experience. When you first sit down to make a bundle of these, you can pull from what you remember. I love talking to business owners because usually they already have a key set of stories. And when you get those core stories out, they're usually something they transfer through word of mouth. They're happy to talk about it in person. When we pull them out, we can then turn them into content that amplifies that message and goes out through social media or email. We're going to talk a little bit about different ways we can push them through. So, the moment you want to start with a real situation or experience, either in the past or as you're going through your business, you're going to notice opportunities pop up where you're having an experience and be like, oh, this would make a great story to share on my social. The second piece is what happened. You're going to describe what you did, noticed, or learned. And then your third piece, you're going to put why it matters. You're going to tie it back to the business now, because this is all about reaching our business goals. We want to be mindful that we're not just sharing a story, we're tying it back to the business. So you're going to explain what it says about your business. I'm going to give a couple of examples of this. So, an example of a process story, the moment would be last week, a customer came into the shop looking for a birthday gift for her sister. She said she wanted something meaningful, not just something quick. So that's our moment. And then what happened, what we did. I showed her one of our handmade ceramic mugs and explained how each one is thrown and glazed by hand. She ended up choosing a deep blue one because it reminded her of their cottage trips growing up. And then bringing it back to the business, why it matters. Moments like that remind me why I focus on handmade pieces. People aren't just buying a mug, they're choosing something personal to give. So this is a process story, but instead of saying I create handmade mugs that are thrown and glazed by hand, it's embedded in the story. So as a audience member reads this, they're receiving that information in a way that's going to stick and resonate much more substantially than if we just said, hey, I'm XYZ Pottery. I make handmade ceramic mugs that are thrown and glazed by hand. That's going to go in and out. They're not going to recall that. Another example for a customer experience story, the moment. A client recently came to me feeling overwhelmed about their marketing. They had tried a lot of things, but nothing felt consistent. What happened? We spend time mapping out a simple marketing system that fit their business instead of trying to copy what larger companies do, and then bringing it back to the business, why it matters. One of the most important parts of my work is helping small business owners simplify marketing so it actually works for the way their business operates. This is a customer experience story. So I could say I help people who are frustrated and overwhelmed with marketing, and then we create a simple system they can follow. But that does not resonate as strongly as building it out into a story. So where are we now? Over here. So this is the structure you want to loosely follow. It's in the guide again, which I'm actually going to drop in right now, so you have time to grab that. And Amy will also share it with us in their recording email when she sends that out. So you don't need to memorize it now. I don't ever want to do that to people. It's written in there. And again, if you have a chat GPT or anything that you use quite often, you can drag and drop that guide in and ask it to help you go through the process of creating your stories, and it will be able to follow the structure. So when we talk about using our stories, the main reason we start to look at marketing, it tends to be in the moments when referrals and word of mouth are not matching our growth goals, or maybe they've dried up. But what happens with referrals and word of mouth is that we are naturally talking to people directly, is usually how we get our first set of clients and customers. We're very active, we're networking, we're going to market, we have some kind of direct connection with the clients and customers who we're going to bring in. And what happens when we're doing that is we naturally share our stories. And then that first set of clients and customers, they then share the stories. They create that know, like, and trust through word of mouth. So when we want to leverage marketing to support our business growth instead, we have to transfer that natural storytelling that's happening, the natural know, like, and trust that's happening with direct contact into our content. So we want our content to start doing that lifting and amplification for us, because we only have so much time and energy, and we can only have so many direct conversations or go to so many networking meetings. Our content then becomes the mechanism that either when we are doing, the marketing term is go to market, when we are actively going out to our market, they're coming and watching our social media and they're getting what they need to know, like, and trust us. Or if you can grow your social media audience, this will allow them to get to know, like, and trust us without us ever having to have direct communication. I've had clients come to me from Australia, California, because they've engaged with my content and they've read my stories. They've never had a direct interaction with me and they're ready to work with me. When we use social media and digital content in this way, it works incredibly well for small, micro, local businesses. And it leverages that market position that we've talked about before. It's an advantage that we have in building trust and relationships and familiarity, which is why you want to make sure all of your marketing is optimized for that rather than leaning into the scale and the advertising budgets, the game that it just doesn't make any sense for us to play because that's not our market advantage. Not that we can't use advertising, but get the core of your marketing in, really optimize for the advantage that's naturally there, and then amplify that with advertising spend. So when we talk about these stories, the most natural, efficient, effective place to use them is on social media. You don't have to be super, super active on social media. Usually, for most of us at the beginning stages, or depending on the scale we want to grow to, we're going to be more direct in how we engage with our community or industry. Social media is usually a support piece for our marketing, and these stories are a great piece of content to have there so that the right fit people are getting the opportunity to know, like, and trust us without us having to do the work. It's also good to put on some of your website pages, especially your about section, woven naturally in the relevant pages. The storytelling will help take that website content from generic and kind of basic into something that resonates and sticks. Email newsletters. If anybody is on the email newsletter hamster wheel and you're constantly having to send it out, these stories become a great piece of content to plug in, or a really strong story can be a great one to have in your welcome email to help people get to know you. You can do these in a video format. If you're kind of the larger side of the small business, a YouTube series can work really well for this. Blog posts is another great place to have them. So I talk a lot about using them on social media, but I want you to understand they're great to have at any touch point that people are going to have with your business, especially online. They're going to help customers and clients build preference and keep your business top of mind. So we're going to get that mental availability. We're going to reduce the risk hesitation. It's going to hit all of the right notes when you put these into place and you put them forward to your audience in a way that helps them stick. So that is my spiel for today. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to come off mute or pop it in the chat. My contact information is there for anyone who wants to have a conversation. And please fill out the survey and share it with any other small business owners you know. It helps us create really solid marketing for all of us. Unspa.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Cheyanne. I think we do have a question in the chat. How does this apply to B&B marketing?
So the same preference for small is also accumulating in B2B. It's the same pieces, even if you're doing it from a professional standpoint. It's a little less emotional storytelling, But even on LinkedIn, this type of content is resonating the most. The why behind your business could be something about frustration in an industry best practice that just wasn't meeting the needs that you saw. So it's all still the same type of stories. It's just the messaging takes a more professional lens rather than a personal lens. Does that answer the question? Perfect.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions?
Happy to help,
There's
Francis.
a nice compliment there in the chat for Cheyanne.
Francis is always awesome.
Perfect. Okay, well, if anybody, actually,